start.
And welcome to Community Homeworks, our education center. My name is Sam. I'm the education coordinator here, and I just want to welcome you. Thank you for coming, both in person and online. Today, we have a continuation of our Handy at Home Pink series, which is dedicated to empowering women to make their own home repairs or become a little more knowledgeable about everything home ownership. Today, we have an introduction to power tools with our wonderful instructor, Julie. She will take over here soon, but Tasha also put a fun fact. The first hand drill was invented in 1895 in Germany. So power tools have been around longer than I thought. But just another reminder, if you haven't been here before, the bathrooms are up that ramp to the right, and just follow that, and it should be on your right-hand side. And please feel free to ask questions and enjoy. All right, Julie, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, so I'm Julie, and today we're going to talk about power tools. Real quick, if we could just go around and say your name and the power tool that you think you're most intimidated by and would like to know more. Or you can say your favorite power tool if that makes you, if you want to be empowered. Either way. So would you mind starting?
Sure. I'm Christine, and I don't even know the names of some of those power tools.
That's okay.
I have this power drill that I've used at home, and I have found it pretty intimidating and frustrating. So
okay, hopefully we will get you over that today. So
my name is Janet, and I think all the power tools are scary, and I'm afraid I'm going to kill myself and everyone else in the room with them somehow.
okay, we're going to work on that for sure. So no one's going to die today. It's like a mission for every day. You want to go ahead?
Hi, I'm Angie. I would like to use my sensitive box. So I would like to get.
Oh, that's awesome. Great. Anytime you can get it out of the box, it's great. That's absolutely an achievement. So go ahead.
I'm Faith, and I am most intimidated by the surface.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and I'm as with you that I'm intimidated, I think, by all of the tools, and so I'm looking forward to just becoming familiar and having an overview of their names and how you use them and what you do with them. And so I'm very happy to be here this evening.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Michael, I've used many of the tools, but things often don't work properly, and I'm here to learn what to do when things don't work correctly.
Okay, great. Yeah, so troubleshooting is definitely one of the things that we will talk about a little bit. So the first thing what we want to talk about whenever we're talking about power tools is safety. And then the kinds of appropriate precautions for using the tools so that hopefully you do feel confident using them. And then we're going to identify common parts of power tools, and when it's appropriate to use different tools, what their jobs are. And I'm ideally also going to give you a little bit of an idea about how to pick out tools yourself, like what to buy for your home. Um, so let's start with safety as always. Most of these make a fair amount of noise, so it's a really good idea to have earplugs. That is one of our preferred safety items. And then it's a good idea to have safety glasses as well. Oh yeah. Why don't you go ahead and hand those out? So safety glasses are important to pick out. Pick out ones that are comfortable for you, because if they're not, you're going to do this with them, and then they're not going to provide any protection. Um, so, like my husband has these pairs that he buys by the dozen in a box, and I put those on, and they immediately fog up. They just do not work for me. And these are like 3 times as expensive as the ones that he has, but these work perfect. They never fog up on me. They last forever. So, you may have to go through a couple pairs, take them back if you find out they're not working well for you. Same thing with earplugs. You want to get earplugs that are comfortable for you. There are several varieties. You can get these little disposable guys. Some are a little more ergonomic than others. So you may find out that you prefer a certain variety of earplug as well. So everybody's going to have safety glasses and earplugs. So when we actually start to use some of the bigger tools, you will have those for your safety. You may also want a dust mask of some kind, depending on what you're working on. If you're generating a lot of sawdust, and you don't have a mitigation system, which would typically be a vacuum attached to like a tool like this. This is called a miter saw or a chop saw. So if you don't have that, you might want a dust mask. It can be just a simple dust mask. It can be an N95. It can be a KN95. And then up from there, there are more specialty masks. At that point, they are called a respirator. Typically, for this kind of work, you're not going to need a full-on respirator. So, other safety bits. Frequently, when I'm like doing the house, I like to wear gloves, comfortable gloves. But gloves are something you may want to avoid with power tools, because you always want to be aware of your clothing, anything dangling. Anytime you have a rotary tool, it can grab things and pull them. So if you have gloves on, it grabs that. It can be a problem. You can definitely get hurt that way. So for these things, often you may want to go without gloves, or you may want to go with like a very slim fitting glove without a lot of extra material. So couple of options. I like these. They're pretty slim fitting for me. If I was going to wear a glove, it would be something like that doesn't have a lot of extra loose material. Or you can do a well-fitting nitrile glove. Advantage there, if it did get caught on something, it would tear likely before it would cause damage. So a couple of options. For gloves, if you're going to wear them, just be very mindful. Be very mindful of your hair. Obviously, we've got a bunch of women here. If your hair is longer, you're going to want to put it back so that it's not impeding your work area. And then same with like necklaces and things like that. If you're bending over, you may not think about it, but all of a sudden it's going to be right there. And you also want to think about where you're using the tool, and ideally using it in a manner that like your face isn't right up next to it, because that's not ideal. So there are ratings on most tools. They will be UL listed. I'm going to pass a couple of these guys around. You guys see if you can find the little UL rating. And I can't believe I can't think of what UL stands for at the second. But one more. Universal Laboratories, something like that. I'm gonna have to Google it now. Um, it does stand for something, but it means that they have been rated for a basic level of safety. Underwriter Laboratory. That's what it is. Thank you. Underwriter Laboratories. So they have been rated for safe use to a certain level. Any tool that you buy at a store nowadays is likely to have a UL rating. Certainly any of the box stores or a hardware store. Possible you can find something not UL rated at Harbor Freight. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at all their stuff. And then there's another symbol you might see, and that is the double insulation symbol. And many of the tools like this that are using a plug, these are two-pronged plugs, not three-pronged plugs, and that seems kind of strange, you might think, because it's not grounded then. But in fact, it is grounded. They found that because people would often just pull off the ground because they didn't have a three-prong outlet to plug it into, a safer way to do it was build them in a manner that's double insulated. And basically that means it's built in such a way that it's not going to shock you or have an electrical discharge that would harm you in any way, even though this doesn't have a grounded plug. So the only way you could potentially really hurt yourself is if you actually cut a cord and then touch the open end. So try not to do that. Some people have tools laying around their house that maybe, you know, their grandfather left them or something like that. And they can have problems because they're old. So this is an example tool. I think this is some kind of drill. I'm not even sure how it works. I'm kind of afraid to plug it in. I don't see a UL rating on it. But what I want you to see is this cord issue here. So you can see that there's supposed to be a little rubber boot here that protects that connection where those wires go into the machine there. And that is the kind of thing that makes a tool something that you don't want to use. And it is possible to get something like this repaired and have a new cord put on it. It's probably not worth it for like something that looks like this. Whenever you're working with a corded tool, it is important to check your cord and make sure that it is intact everywhere. So that you know that it's safe and you're not going to have any electrical issues. This is particularly important with circular saws that you mentioned before, because circular saw, obviously, it cuts, right? And it's pretty easy for you to lose track of where that cord is, and so they can get nicked. If you do get a nick in your cord, you want to examine it carefully. If you can see copper, you don't want to use it. You want to either have the cord replaced or get a different tool. If you can't see copper, if you're just seeing like the little bit of insulation that surrounds it, you can put electrical tape around that to cover the little nick or whatever you've gotten in it. And that's okay. But if you can see wire, that's become an electrical hazard. You shouldn't use it that way. Okay? You can avoid the hassle of cords by buying what is like the most commonly available style of all of these power tools now, and that is by buying battery operated ones. Um, there are many brands, there are many very good brands, and these batteries are really quite powerful, and the tools will run for a long time on these batteries. Let's see, I've got this one and this one. I want you guys to take a look at these two. Oh, thank you. In comparison to our other drills that we have up here, our other drill. So this is kind of your standard drill. It's 18 volts or 20 volts. It does everything a drill driver should do. It both drills and it works as a driver or a screwdriver, a powered screwdriver. It's very nice. This is also a drill driver, and it will do all of the same work. This one is a 12 volt. It has a much smaller battery, and for the average homeowner, this is more than adequate. This will truly do the job for you. You don't have to get the big giant one. Regardless of if you do get a big one, you should know that they do have variable size battery packs, and those battery packs can affect their weight. A bigger battery will last longer. It will also be heavier. So like this tool, which is an oscillating tool, has a big battery on it, but it's kind of heavy like that, and I would rather use it with a lighter battery because I only need to use it for a few minutes and I'm not worried about running out of power. So I'm just going to put the lighter battery on it, and now it's way easier to handle. If you do decide that you would like to purchase some kind of power tool, something to think about is what other tools do they make that will use that same battery? So Milwaukee, for example, probably makes 20 different things that will use this same little 12 volt battery. Flashlights, car tire inflator, a little 4-inch cutting wheel that is, I just thought was hilarious when I first saw it, and a completely useless tool. And I use that thing more than I ever would have believed that I would. Does everything. But so there's probably 20 or something of these. If you did get like the drill with the this size one, you could have hundreds of things that will use that battery. So like I looked at Ryobi earlier, they have over 300 tools that use their battery packs. So at our house on these Milwaukee tools, I've lost track of how many tools that we have that run on these batteries, but they include larger tools that you might not think that you could get with a battery. So we have circular saws, we have a leaf blower, we have a chop saw or a miter saw like that, and there is a table saw as well. We don't have that yet because I don't know. My husband hasn't been good enough for me to buy him one. Okay, so yeah, what you got? Yeah. That is a fantastic question. Thank you so much. So, older battery technology was made from nickel cadmium, and if you charged it and left it on the charger or didn't run it completely down, it could develop a memory, and then it would only charge to that much, and they would degrade over time. And then you would have a circular saw like this with a dozen batteries, none of which will charge, and it is now a giant paperweight, because that is exactly what the problem with that tool right there is. With modern lithium ion batteries, that is no longer a problem, or at least not for like the life of the tool or the life of the battery. So you can leave it on the charger all the time. Like there's a charger over here. And that's actually the best place to leave it, because you want to make sure that the battery is going to be charged up when you go to use it. So, and they have, the other thing they have is an incredibly long, I don't even want to call it a standby time. But if you were to, say have this tool sitting in your garage for 8 months with this battery on it, it's probably still going to have power when you go pick it up again. It may only be 50% power or something like that, but they will, the batteries will stay charged even sitting for a long time. So they're not intercompatible, which is why I said, like, if you're thinking of buying one, look at all of the things that company makes, because if you get a rigid, it's going to work with any other rigid products. If you get a Milwaukee, it's going to work with other Milwaukee products. If you get Ryobi, it's going to work with other Ryobi products. So it will be in that group. And they're designed in such a way that you can't accidentally put the wrong one. Like I couldn't put this Milwaukee one. It just, it doesn't work. So yeah, that's kind of a safety feature.
So it's kind of like decide what brand you want to go with.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, it's kind of like decide what brand you want to go with early on. Yeah, go ahead.
What are like the tiers as far as quality of brands? Like
Yeah.
What's the top to the more mid-range?
Yeah, so the top is Festool if you're super fancy, and you watch This Old House. Tommy on This Old House, he uses Festool a lot. And they are very, very nice, but it's much more than the average person needs. For the average person, if you're a professional, Milwaukee is a pretty good line. DeWalt is a pretty good line. They are built to stand up to a lot of abuse. You climb up a ladder and then you drop it. You toss it in the back of your truck or trunk when you're going from one place to another. Like at my house, they live in buckets because we have like a bucket for every job. So like there's like a electrical bucket and there's like a carpentry bucket and there's a door hanging bucket. And so honestly, most of these tools that I have today came out of buckets in the garage. So I'm glad you don't know where my garage is. Don't come and steal them. Yeah, they can stand a certain amount of abuse. And then sort of the tier down from that, a little bit more homeowner level, I would say like Ryobi's a really good homeowner level brand. Any of the like the Craftsman stuff that they sell at Lowe's, the Rigid is Home Depot's brand, I think, but they're good. There's a lot, but I would stay away from ones that are very, very, very inexpensive and don't seem to be part of any kind of tool family. So yeah, I think Ryobi, Rigid, Lowe's might have Cobalt ones too. Those are good. If you want to go like a little bit more heavy duty, DeWalt, Milwaukee are going to be great. Bosch is going to be great. Hitachi is good. Yeah, so there's a lot of options. Any other questions right now? Okay. Yeah.
So if your tool doesn't have UL listed and you already have it, what would you recommend? And still okay to use it?
It's
or-
probably still okay to use it. Yeah. It's just a good thing. It's a good thing to look for. Yeah. So it's gonna be a higher quality tool. So like I see that it's like Master Force, is it? Performax, Menards, right?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. Like that's okay. You know, if that's what you can afford, go for it. If you're trying to get like something a little bit longer lasting, you might want to go to like one of the more known brands. But I have several like very cheap tools at home from Menards, and like if that's what you can afford, that's totally fine. They are functional. They're just not maybe as nice to work with. So we bought like a real cheap oscillating tool. This is an oscillating tool, and it it was like $30. I was like, I can't believe it's that inexpensive, and it works perfectly fine. But it is much louder than this, and it vibrates you like crazy. And this one vibrates you a lot too. But those are kind of some of the differences you're going to get. Yeah, well, we'll come back to the oscillating tool in a minute, but just to not like keep you completely guessing, it is a tool that it oscillates. It has an oscillating head. See, it makes so much noise. I didn't put my earplugs in yet. So that little blade goes back and forth like that. And you can get tons of different styles of blades. So that can be really handy. And we'll talk about things you could use that for. I do want to go over a couple of features on the drills. And get my battery back on here. Do we have more drills? I'm not sure we do. Well, I'm gonna give this one to you guys back here so that you can see it, and then I'm gonna talk about some of these features on the bigger one up front. So yeah, just pass it back and forth so that you can check it out. So this is kind of the most common tool that people use. It is a drill driver. It's battery operated. You can also get corded ones. Corded ones have the advantage of they will never die. A battery has the advantage of you can take it anywhere and you don't have to worry about the cord at all. If you buy one, they frequently come as a set with another tool called a driver, which is this guy here. And for those of you that have the little one, it's this guy here. And that is exclusively like a driver, so it's a bit driver. It does a really good job putting in screws. That is its primary function. So with these, they have a forward and a reverse, and that is typically a little switch in the middle there. And it's typically operated by one finger at a time. And then there's also a center stop, and then it's locked. So it won't go if it's like, in a tool bag somewhere or while you're moving it around. It will also have speed adjustment on the top. And that is honestly something that for most people, you can ignore it. It doesn't make a huge difference, but there are reasons why you would use the one speed over the other. If you are, say, drilling into a hardwood, and hardwoods are actually hard, You might put it on the lower speed, which is 1 rather than 2, because if you go really fast, it could actually like start burning the wood. So that is a time where you might benefit from having it on the slower setting, the 1 setting. It's going to have more torque, so each turn is going to have a little bit more grab of material if you're like using a drill to go into a piece of hardwood. And yeah, that's primarily like the thing. If for some reason you think like it's gonna be better if it's a lower speed, the biggest thing I can think of is for hardwood, or like if you get it jammed and you're trying to like if you get a drill bit kind of stuck and you're trying to unstick it, you'd probably want to put it on the slower speed. And they are variable speed. And what that means is as you pull the trigger in, it's going to have a little bit of power, and then the farther you pull it in, it's going to go faster. So that is something to think about as well. You can get yourself out of a lot of trouble just by using the trigger correctly. The other feature here, there's going to be a dial with numbers on it, and that is torque, or it's a clutch. So there's a drill setting, and if you're drilling, you want it on that setting. If you're driving, and again, that's usually driving screws, you can set it so that the clutch will stop the drill from spinning when it encounters a certain amount of resistance. And so that is something that you can use, like say you're screwing into this table, you're putting a screw into it, and you don't want it to sink below the surface of the wood. Once it hits the screw hits the table, it's going to encounter resistance, right? And it's going to actually stop the tool from spinning it. That's what the clutch will do. And we can show you, we'll do some examples so you guys will get to actually do that. Last thing, if you've had an old drill, you might have had a drill with a chuck that had a little key, and you had to, well, now they have these really nice chuckless sets. So you can put a bit in here and just with your hand, secure the bit. You don't have to use that old keyed chuck kind of thing anymore. If you still have one that works that way, that's completely fine. These are just a little bit more convenient. So, oh, yes. This guy, yeah, there it is. There's the chuck hanging off. And that's what everybody had, one of these little things hanging on there. I truly do not. I think this is like the first drill ever made. I don't know if there's a chuck involved. So yeah, sorry about that. So this tool is an impact driver. And here's one for you guys to play with. Back here, you can pass that along. Similar features, but it really has one job, and that is to put in screws. And it does it with an impact. It's a rotational impact. So basically, it takes the work out of putting in the screw. This does the work instead of you pushing the screw in. It replaces your force when you're trying to put screws in. So if you're, say, putting in a deck, or maybe you're placing like a board on your porch or something like that, and you've got several screws to put in, this can be really helpful because it's going to be doing the heavy lifting of pushing the screw in. All you're really doing is holding the tool and guiding it. Yeah. No such thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so going back to the drill, yeah, so it is easier to use the chuck. Like when you get a little confidence, you can do it by hand, um, but you can also do it using the tool to spin it. So if you hold that and press the trigger, it's spinning it right, and so now it's secured. And now if you do it in reverse, it lets it go. Yeah, you're holding the chuck. Yep, yep. That's a nice little trick. Yeah, so thank you for noticing that. Um, yeah. I apologize for not I was aware of it when I did it, but I was like, I'll just get to that when I show it we all start doing it. Okay, so parts on this, we again have the trigger. This one has a nice fancy light. That's another feature you might be interested in, like if you decide to go look for a drill. Does it have a light? Does it actually work? Does it provide some light? The Milwaukee ones have a light. I like the location of that light better, but either way, it's just giving you a little bit of light. We have forward and reverse again, as well as that middle setting that locks it. And then we didn't talk about the battery on that one, but it also has the battery. So most of them have some way of locking and unlocking the battery. This one, it's a couple of little buttons. And then here, this chuck is it's not a pressure fit. I can't think of what this is called, this style. But basically, you are pulling this end out, and that allows you to set this in, and then you let it go, and it grabs it and holds it locked in there. I will figure out what that is called. And then this is a nice feature. You may have had run across one of these and not known why this was here. But it lets you hold that, and this, you can hold this and that will still spin. So it lets you get a little bit more stability while you're using it. Any questions on those two? All right. No, you just have one, but frequently they're sold in sets. So it can be almost as much money to buy one as it is to have the two. And from that standpoint, it's like, okay, I'll just buy the two set because this one's $80 and this one's $99. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll take the second one. What did you? Oh, yeah. Oh, and that's okay. Like if you've just got the one, that's fine. It does everything that it will do everything that this one does. It won't have that little rotational kick to make the screw go in easier. So your elbow, your weight will have to do a little bit of the work. That's the only difference. All right. So next tool, circular saw. So this is a circular saw here. This is another one here. And if you guys want to take a look at that and then pass it around. So there's a lot more to a circular saw than there is to a drill. Several parts, but it has, they have a lot of uses. So this can obviously cut wood. It can cut like PVC trim, things you might have around your house. It can cut countertop. If you're putting in like, you can buy like little prefab countertops, maybe put in your laundry room or something. or your basement, and you can use these to cut that. They're pretty convenient. They do a ton of things. You can really achieve a lot with one of these. If you're going to have like one cutting tool, this one is a pretty good one because it's so versatile. You can change the depth of the cut so that you can cut thicker things or thinner things. You can adjust the bevel so that you can cut things on an angle. Yeah, all kinds of things. I'm trying to think of. This wouldn't be good for cutting tile. Yeah, you'd want a tile saw for that. Yeah. And the other thing to know is, geez, you can rent these tools at most places. So you don't even necessarily have to feel like you've got to buy something like this. You can rent it from Home Depot. You can rent it from like Sun Rentals. You can probably rent it at Gale's True Value. They have some rental stuff there. So yeah, something to keep in mind if like you don't want to invest, $200 or $150 in one of those things. I don't know actually how much that costs. Know that if you want to use one, there are ones available that you can use without buying it.
So you were talking about a tile saw, for example. What would be the material that you use?
Wood products, plastic products. You could, like when I say plastic, I'm talking about like PVC trim and things like that for the house. Like this right here, I think these are PVC trim pieces. I'm pretty sure. Yep. So it's plastic. There's no wood in there. So it'll cut those. It wouldn't cut. I wouldn't use it to. You could use it to cut thin metal if you needed to, and you would want a metal cutting blade. So it's important to note that there are different blades for different materials, and there are different blades that are most appropriate for certain types of cutting. Like you might have one blade for plywood cutting and one blade for cutting 2x4s. Although the blade would work to cut both of them, it's just going to work better for their correct application. So you could cut through vinyl tile with this. Like say you're redoing an old kitchen and it has an old like linoleum floor and you're just going to get rid of it and you're going to replace the subfloor too. You can use this to cut through both those materials and just strip them out at the same time without having to rip up the linoleum separately. So you can do that. I would wear a mask if I was going to do that. So I guess when you say vinyl tile, are you like the LVP flooring, or is that? Okay. So okay, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. So I think possibly you could use it. It's certainly something you could try and see if it goes well. But you might be able to cut that by scoring it, which might be easier. So yeah, you might, just put a straight edge and then score it and then break it. That might be a easier way to get a nice cut. But you could probably cut it on the miter saw if, that would probably do the job. Yeah. So yeah, lots of different materials that it will cut. You want to really think about when you're going to use something like this, tool safety for how you're going to do a cut. So the biggest danger of a saw like this is having it kick, and it will kick if the blade gets pinched. And it's possible that it'll kick the material, and it's possible that it'll kick the saw. So it's important to be careful about that. We're going to pretend for just a second that this is a flat piece of board, which it is, but that it's sitting on two sawhorses, not a big frame. If I were to take this and start cutting it, as I'm moving along, you know, it's going to start pressing together where I'm making the cut. And that pinching is going to cause the blade to hang up. And that could, again, kick the saw at me, or it could kick the material, both of which are a dangerous situation. So if you were going to cut this board, you would want to have your sawhorses to one side, and you would want to be cutting off the edge. Does that make sense? And then, you know, let's say I was going to cut a piece of this plywood, not plywood, let's see, I'm going to cut this guy. And I'm going to cut it like on this surface. You want to think about how deep the blade has to go. And you don't want to necessarily cut into the surface of this. So just something to consider. This is maybe not a totally realistic application, but if you do put, you want to be careful of the surface you're cutting on, because if you do put that blade too low, you're going to cut into the surface below it. So just something to consider. This does have safety features to avoid hurting yourself. The big one is the trigger is locked unless you enable it by holding a secondary switch. And then that also really prevents it from running if it's not in someone's hand. So if you were to drop it, it's going to shut off. Yeah. Yep. I am going to just turn this on for a second so that you can see. So this is the secondary switch. This is locked unless I push this down. And this isn't like super easy to manipulate. Like I've got to be thinking about that in order to get that to go. So that is a safety feature and an important one. And they'll exist on larger power tools, that second safety switch. Okay. All right, then there's the miter saw. Miter saws are super handy. They're also called chop saws. So these are really good for cutting trim, like house trim that you might use. You want to put up crown molding, you might use it for that. And these are not as scary as they look. They have this blade guard to keep you safe. They have a safety trigger as well. I don't know if you have to have, if it has two or not. I haven't used this one before. And this can turn this way or this way to make angled cuts. And is it a beveling one? Yeah, so, and it will also, am I doing the right thing there? It will also tilt sideways so that you can do angled cuts like that. And then I'm gonna like pause a little bit on that, talk about like a couple other things, and then I really like to get you guys some time to handle these things yourselves. This is a reciprocating saw. This also has a secondary safety switch. These can be really good for all kinds of things, but like these kind of scare me. Not that anybody should be scared, but like they're heavy and big, and they do a really good job at the things people use them for. But yeah, it's large. It's important to have respect for it. But it is primarily used like it's primarily used for cutting. It's a different style of tool, and these can cut like anything. Actually, I would use the oscillating tool for that. Yeah. So the oscillating tool would be it's much easier to control. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people use them like that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. This is Sawzall. Yeah. So yeah, that's a Sawzall. It's also called a reciprocating saw. Sawzall is a brand. Yeah. Yeah. Just like a lot of people call these skill saws, and that is a brand. So yeah. So my husband's family has an orchard, and they use this to trim their trees. So yes, it can be very useful. But you really want to be careful how you're using it, because yeah, it's a big sharp blade. It's easy, it's easy to let that accidentally swing into your leg. There's no blade guard. So yeah. And then what other tool here? We just did the Sawzall. So another one I brought is this is a jigsaw. This cuts wood, plastic, soft metals. This is so this will do a lot of the same things that a circular saw will do. But it's just a little homeowner friendly, a little more homeowner friendly, in my opinion. The drawback is you wouldn't necessarily get as precise of a straight line if you were, say, cutting a line. But if you put down a straight edge and then follow it, you can do a pretty good job. And this, it's sitting on its own weight. So it's just another cutting tool that I think is a little more homeowner friendly. All right. So who feels like doing some actual work with these things? Hopefully everyone. Yeah, that would be great. I think we are ready.
All right, bye. Thank you for joining us for the Intro to Power Tools class with Julie. It's been wonderful so far. I can't wait to get some hands-on, or watching you guys get hands-on experience. But I did promise a few reminders. We do have some more workshops coming up. Next week is toilet repairs, Wednesday at 5:30 with Julie. And that for the following week, I believe, is drywall repair. And then the week after that is homeowners insurance. So if you want to brush up and talk to an expert about homeowners insurance, please come to that. And also, speaking of power tools and renting tools, we do have a tool library coming soon. So that will be open to you guys first, since you guys are participating in the education workshops. And on that note, we have a soft launch, an open house on November 9th. That's a Saturday. You can drop in anytime, 12 to 3. It's not on the website yet. I'm going to do that tomorrow. But yeah, I hope you are able to join us for that launch and enjoy some food and check out what we've got going on even beyond the education center. So I hope you'll be able to join us for that. Otherwise, I'll let you guys get some hands-on experience and enjoy the rest of the evening. All right, thank you.